we might as well get to the next topic right now. Because right now, man, and look, I'm gonna try to remain positive here. Obviously, I'm a Knicks fan. We know that. Zach, you are as well. Let's break it down, right? How concerning is the Knicks 0-7 record against the top three teams in the NBA? Zach, the mic is yours again.
I think it's pretty concerning because going into this season, after the big trades in the offseason the Knicks made, the mentality, and I thought rightfully so, was just at least get to the conference finals. We know that Boston is the reigning NBA champions. They were the rightful favorite entering the season, but the Knicks, the last 2 years, got to the second round. They were able to win a playoff series in each of the last 2 years. And look, even last year, you know, that Pacer series was such a bummer because you felt like if they were healthy, they would have been able to win. But unfortunately, they were not healthy. And it's hard because this Knicks offense is elite. It's one of the 5 best offenses in the league. It's an offense that Knicks fans haven't really seen in recent memory, but it's pretty deflating because when you're coached by Tom Thibodeau, the one thing you automatically expect is that your defense is going to be at least respectable, if not very good. And this defense is just not it right now. And I think the main reason for that is playing Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5. And especially against Boston, they're just able to put him in ball screen after ball screen after ball screen. And the same thing happens every time he gets cooked, and they're able to score with ease. And the Knicks, it's frustrating too because it's not like they're a bad team. They're very clearly one of the 3 best teams in the East and one of the 7 to 8 best teams, maybe even better than that in the NBA. But when your expectations are this high and you're continuing not only lose, but you're getting blown out by these teams. These games are over in the first quarter. It's pretty deflating. And I'm puzzled by it because you thought that at least on the wings, you had Josh Hart, you had Mikal Bridges, you had OG Anunoby, who are all 3 very good defenders, but the transition defense is not good. Other teams have 2 guys that they could just hunt in Brunson and Towns. And right now, Will, that's really my main thing. The defense is just not good enough. Now, a lot of people have been saying Mitchell Robinson, he should hopefully be back pretty soon. Maybe that's going to make an impact, and maybe that could be the one thing that really jumpstarts this Knicks defense. And I think it'll definitely help, but I don't know if it's going to be the saving grace because we know that Mitchell Robinson throughout his career has had a tough time staying healthy. And when he's back, he's going to probably only be able to play like 20 to 25 minutes. And that's another thing with Tom Thibodeau that a lot of Knicks fans I feel like are pretty frustrated about, the fact that he just continues running his starters into the ground and playing them so many minutes. And by the way, too, I think that is a big reason why these last 2 games went the way they did. Of course, that first game coming out of the All-Star break, the Knicks play an overtime thriller against the Bulls, and every starter played like in the high 40s when it comes to minutes. And you could just tell that in these 2 games against Cleveland and Boston, they just didn't have a ton of gas left. But that's really the thing with the Knicks right now, Will, is I don't want to put so much stock into these regular season results because the playoffs are an entirely different sport. But going into a playoff series against Cleveland or Boston, you're going to have a very hard time picking the Knicks. And that's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, look, man. Disclaimer. I just want to put a disclaimer out here because I'm gonna make a comparison. I don't want to offend nobody, but like I just thought about it, and heck, it's a podcast. I'm glad that Tom Thibodeau is not a slave owner because man, if he was out there, you'll be working in them cotton fields for 24 hours, brother. Okay, more literally. I mean, Tom Thibodeau with these minutes, all right, more minutes, more problems. Obviously, that's his special. And I'll get into that later. Let me answer the question, man. I'm very concerned. I am. Because when we made the moves that we made this offseason, we had a very aggressive offseason. Okay, we traded 5 first rounders for a non-all-star in Mikal Bridges. Obviously trading for Cat, extending OG to a $212 million deal. And when you look at the payroll, I mean, we are committing $200 million to our top 7 players. So there's not a lot of margin where we can sign a bench player that's going to give us a spark off the bench. They would have to take a minimum to sign with us, obviously. The reality is presently constructed, we are not a better team than we were last year. And we have to come to the realization of that. To me, Zach, out of all the subtractions that we had last year, to me, the one that I felt the most was Isaiah Hartenstein, because what he brought to our team on the defensive end, right? That was one of the toughest guys for us to lose. Now, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, was that defensive trade-off worth it for more offensive identity? Because Hartenstein is a guy that could do the dirty work. You talk about Cat at the 5. But with Hartenstein, he could do the dirty work on the defensive end, where he was on the floor for 1,886 minutes last year. We actually was second in the NBA as far as allowing only 110 points per game. Our defense was tremendous with him on the floor, especially when he became the starter and Mitchell Robinson was out. Now, you look at Karl-Anthony Towns, a very offensive-minded big who can score the basketball at will, but his defensive shortcomings is obvious. His inability to play drop-back coverage is what the Celtics was able to exploit in that game. I want to play another highlight here showing Kristaps Porzingis making a wide-open three-point shot because of the defensive incompetence of Karl-Anthony Towns. Let's play it right now. I mean, look at this right here. I mean, Porzingis is wide open, and look, he took long to get back. Okay, clearly he doesn't have the defensive capabilities to be able to play the 5 and play the 5 effectively. Sure, he's a good scorer, but obviously we have no rim protection. That's what we're missing right now. The Knicks are, and obviously Mitchell Robinson. Obviously, we'll talk about him. But when you look at the Cavaliers game a couple games ago, we allowed too much dribble penetration. We allowed wide open 3-point shots, and obviously we got sent home in a body bag. I mean, it was a blowout. Now, when you talk about Mitchell Robinson, I'm not too worried because, listen, the last memory that I have of Mitchell Robinson is a very short memory, was him taking care of the front bigs of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, him taking care of Allen and Mobley, him being the daddy. Okay, that's what I remember. So when people try to tell me, "Oh, we even better than the Cleveland Cavaliers," I mean, that's what I remember. Now, sure, the Cavaliers are a good team this year, and right now, hand to the fire, I don't think we are. But I do remember that image, and if we can get Mitchell Robinson back, then maybe, we'll stand a shot there, depending on how we look when he comes back. But obviously, you don't want to put your eggs in the Mitchell Robinson basket, okay? That's like asking a crackhead to lead you to the promised land. I mean, the guy's not stable enough. He's not healthy enough. By the time he comes back, he might get hurt again, knock on wood. I mean, that's the Mitchell Robinson experience. The guy don't even score the basketball. The guy gives you nothing offensively but rebounds. But with that being said, do you take the second chance opportunities and run with it? Because the problem is, Zach, and I'm going to try to break this down as best as I can. The problem that I see with this team is that we, with the moves we made, signaled that we want to be more offensive minded compared to last year's team. But with that, we are trying to be this defensive team too, and it's not working. Do we need to just go all in offensively? Right? And sure, I know defense wins championships, but when you have Jalen Brunson and you have Karl-Anthony Towns on the floor, that's a dynamic duo that is thriving offensively and not defensively. And that's what you're building around. So do you just say, effort, we just going to be this offensive juggernaut? And if you can't do that with Tom Thibodeau, then do you replace Tom Thibodeau? Because to me, if you bring in Mitchell Robinson in the starting lineup, he's going to stunt your offense. Even though he could get you rebounds, and that's why I said maybe you take the second chance opportunities. But as far as anything else, he's going to stop you offensively. He's going to stunt you. Same thing with Achua. When Achua's on the floor, defenders are not even guarding him because he's not a threat to shoot the basketball. I done seen some horrible shots over the weekend from this cat. So again, what team do we want to be? Zach, the mic is yours.
Well, I mean, I think the issue, though, is the Knicks are an offensive juggernaut right now. They're one of the best offenses in the league. And when Mitchell Robinson comes back, yeah, he's probably not going to play, 30 to 35 minutes, but that's the issue. As good as your offense is, I feel like if you're playing Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5, you're screwed. You have no chance in the playoffs. And going back to some of your points about the offseason, I'm curious about this because I agree. Hartenstein was a huge loss. We know just how important he was for the team, and it seems like without him, everything on the defensive end has fallen apart. So I'm trying to think, looking back, how should Leon Rose have approached this offseason differently if what we have right now isn't working? And I remember the conversations in the offseason where you probably just don't have enough money to pay both Hartenstein and Robinson. So one of those guys had to go. Maybe the Knicks tried to trade Mitchell Robinson and his contract in the offseason, but they couldn't do that. And that's why they had to move on from Hartenstein. But look, the Mikal Bridges trade, and look, he's been very disappointing. Don't get me wrong, especially for the amount of draft capital you gave up for him. As crazy as this sounds, though, I kind of feel like Karl-Anthony Towns, as good as he is, I just don't think he's a winning player. I'm just going to be straight up. I do not think if he's a featured option on your team, you're going to be able to win a championship. And I feel like the Knicks probably would have been better off sticking with that top six of, Brunson, Hart, DiVincenzo. Bringing back OG was fine. You had to after how much you traded for him. Bridges and Hartenstein. I would have rolled with those six and not Karl-Anthony Towns, and I probably would have traded Mitchell Robinson if I had to and fill out the edges from there. But I hate to pick on Cat because I think he's been very good so far. He's been scoring a lot, and he's been a great offensive player. But I just don't know if you could win a championship with him as a focal point. That's how big of a liability he is on the defensive side. And even last year in Minnesota, I thought that when he was playing next to Rudy Gobert, that was the best I've ever seen him defensively. But even in the Dallas series, he got benched late because he couldn't guard. And that was a problem. And when you don't have a center and you have to play him at the 5, then you're screwed, especially against a team like Boston. So I think that's the conundrum the Knicks are in, is that as good of a player Cat is, you just have your liabilities when he's out there defensively.
I mean, look, if we want to go back in hindsight, right, everything is much clearer and easier in hindsight, right, because it happened already. And now we got something to go off of. It worked, it failed, right? And when you go back in time, though, we lost Hartenstein. So then it made that move justifiable to get Karl-Anthony Towns. Why? Because Mitchell Robinson. If we didn't have Karl-Anthony Towns right now, we'd be even more screwed because we are going to wait for Mitchell Robinson to come back this long, if he ever comes back. Now, there's reports that he may be itching closer, but that could be smoke signals, right? I seen the same thing with Ben Simmons. Oh, he coming back. Nah, never came back. Okay. I'm not saying that Mitchell is Ben Simmons, but you get my point. I mean, might as well. A guy don't shoot. But anyway, jokey joke there. But my point is, we made that move because we lost Hartenstein, which is why I say that was the biggest loss because of the domino effect. We felt desperate. We made that move. And at the time, too, Julius Randle, there were questions about the fit with him and Mikal and Jalen Brunson. And that's why we made that trade-off. Obviously we had to include Dante in that deal. And it took Cat away from a very great habitat that he was in, being able to play, a stretch out 4 when you had Rudy Gobert on the court. And even then with the Timberwolves, their offense was a little bit stunted with Rudy Gobert because Rudy Gobert don't shoot. But Cat at the 4, they was able to do their thing. So now that you have Cat coming back to the 5, obviously, it's going to be defensive shortcomings. So that's why I'm even more worried because it puts a more emphasis on the health of Mitchell Robinson, who clearly has not been reliable over the last couple of years. And we are banking him, I would assume, to play some 5 with Karl-Anthony Towns playing some 4. And to me, that's not a bet that you could just feel good about and sleep at night. That's like we just go through the motions. To me, Zach, what I saw over the weekend, especially on Sunday in that game relatively early, as soon as it tip off, Boston is clearly just a better team than the Knicks. And the gap is wide. And as a Knicks fan, it pains me to say that because I had a level of expectation, but I still never thought that we was going to beat Boston. But looking at these games, I'm like, yeah, we definitely not beating Boston. We're not even close because they can exploit the smaller matchups like Jalen Brunson on the floor. They could exploit poor perimeter defense with Karl-Anthony Towns on the floor. They have great IQ on the floor with Jrue Holiday and Tatum's evolution as a facilitator. So they just have so much talent and smart basketball players on the floor at once that could exploit our matchups. And that's why it's going to be very hard for us to do anything, even including getting Mitchell Robinson back. That's going to make me feel that we can take down Boston.
I agree, but that's an issue because I feel like the Knicks literally built their team this offseason to slow down Boston. It kind of
They
reminds
sure
me
ain't
of
doing it.
yeah. But like it just doesn't make sense to me. And I guess it kind of does because again, Karl-Anthony Towns is that bad of a defender at the 5, but the Knicks literally have 3 very good defenders on the wing. Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. All 3 of those guys are really good defenders. Kenny, because he can't guard anyone. The Knicks have a top 5 offense with Cat, but it doesn't matter because their defense is so bad that they have no chance against these top teams.
Literally, I mean, our defense was superb last year. And obviously, we losing Hartenstein, for Cat basically, or replacing Cat for the loss of Hartenstein. Obviously, the issue was clear. The issue is clear. And look, I don't think Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby is playing up to their ability. Don't get me wrong. And I think they do deserve some type of blame for that. I think especially Mikal, I think he can play a lot more better than what he's been playing like, especially when we are trading 5 first-round picks for you. Like, you should be the second best player on this team based off the amount of assets we gave and acquired for you, right? You got basically 5 first-round picks as an all-star. That's a package for an all-star. Okay, so you need to give us all-star performances on a nightly basis. He's giving us role playing, right? And sure, you was going to be a role player, but at least, we need some star moments, and he's not showing us that. So that's an issue. Tom Thibodeau is an issue. And Zach, I'm not sure if you have some words for Tom Thibodeau there, feel free and I'll respond.
I think he's done a good job. We have to remember what this Knicks team was like before he got here. And it's crazy. If you would have told any Knicks fan like 6 years ago, oh, you'd be one of the best teams in the league. You'd make the second round of the playoffs back-to-back years, and you're knocking on the door of that again. You can't complain. And it's easy to say that back then. But I just feel like as crazy as this sounds, dude, I actually think Leon Rose deserves more blame than Tom Thibodeau because of the way he just built this team. And I think it's a little flawed. However, this point just hit me. I feel like there's a chance we look back on the Knicks' bad injury luck last year and just keep asking ourselves, what if? Because I agree with you. Last year's team was playing a lot better than this team is right now. And I think the Knicks last year could have given Boston a legit series, at least as good of a series as anyone else in the playoffs did. They really cruised through the whole thing, and Boston themselves got some good injury luck. And it's crazy because I think last year's Celtics team was better than this year's. At least it was more dominant in the regular season. We'll see what happens to Boston come playoff time. But I think last year, the way the Knicks were built, assuming Anunoby would have been healthy, but with Hartenstein, with DiVincenzo, the team was just deeper in general. I feel like we could look back on last year and the injuries suffered in that Pacers series as unfortunately maybe the closest this Knicks group has ever gotten to legitimately going to the NBA Finals.
I mean, look, I do think Leon Rose deserves a lot of blame, because I think he just got happy and was like a kid at the Toys R Us. Like, I just want that toy. I want that toy. And, you could have waited. And then, you got Jimmy Butler, who, a lot of people think is old, but look what he's doing with the Warriors and the amount of impact that he brought to the Warriors. I mean, there was other guys available, maybe Kevin Durant, instead of trading for Mikal Bridges and all that. But look, the reality is I do see where you're coming from. As far as the architect of building this team compared to everything that I know about Tom Thibodeau and how he likes to coach, to me, that was always a question that I had in my mind. Oh, we want to be this 5-out spacing team, kind of the mirror what Boston is doing, Boston's success, winning a championship, doing it last year. Okay, well, what do we know about Tom Thibodeau? He's defensive minded. So how does that correlate to 5-out? So, yeah, I do agree with that. But still, there's no excuses for the lack of adjustments being made. Like, I think Miles McBride should be playing more minutes. Understand that obviously with him and Brunson on the floor, it's small, but he got long arms. He could defend, right? I saw him in the playoffs come in and defend and play well with the minutes that he got in the playoffs. I think that playing these guys, the amount of minutes that he's playing, and granted, I know that depth is not like the best thing that we have on our roster right now, but there has to be a perfect balance. And when you have Karl-Anthony Towns hurt in the fourth quarter, and you put him back in the game, to me is malpractice. And I do believe that more minutes could mean more problems, and hopefully it doesn't mean that for the New York Knicks.
One quick point on that cat thing you brought up, dude. I think that was a cat decision. I think he's trying to shed that narrative of, oh, he's soft. Oh, he doesn't have that dog built in him. But at the end of the day, that's just irresponsible, and he shouldn't have been in the game. And that was a big problem, no doubt. And it feels like with these Thibodeau teams, because look, I'm a Thibodeau guy. I'm a Thibodeau defender. I think he's done a great job. I don't think his job should be in jeopardy right now. But I will also admit, you could make the case he's a little bit of a flawed coach, because this formula has not resulted in any of his teams winning a championship. And most times it results in his teams breaking down ultimately in the playoffs. And that's a problem. You just wish this next team would be a little bit closer.
I mean, D Rose, last year with all the injuries we accumulated, at the end of the year, basketball, the way how the game is played, when you have to defend the 3-point line, a lot of people don't talk about it because people talk about modern medicine and why all these players getting hurt in the era of modern medicine with all these, 3-point shots, and you having to defend every blade of the court. It could put a lot of torque on your legs, on your body, on your hamstrings. And that's why you get all these injuries that you get. And when you have a coach that's out here playing you 1,000 minutes, it's crazy. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Zach, in closing, I am worried. Against bad teams, we are pretty good. We see the potential against these bad teams, especially offensively. But I am worried, man. I don't think there's a move that we can make, even with Mitchell Robinson comes back, that's going to make me feel any better. Maybe we are a better basketball team with Mitch coming back. But like I said, to put that level of responsibility on his shoulders, to me, is a pipe dream.
I'll close with this too. I just think the most frustrating thing is last year, I do feel like a healthy Knicks team could have given Boston the best run they saw from anyone in the playoffs in their way to the finals. They beat the Heat in 5. They, in the second round, they swept the Cavs. In the conference finals, they swept the Pacers, and then they beat the Mavericks in 5. They didn't even sweat on their way to the conference finals. And if the Knicks would have won that game 7 in Indiana, or against Indiana at the Garden, they probably would have gotten smoked too, because Brunson broke his hand. Anunoby was not 100%. I just feel like a healthy Knicks team could have given Boston a legit run last year, the way they were built before all these moves. But unfortunately, we never got the chance to see it due to injuries, and that could go down as an all-time what if with this Knicks group.
I think we would have ran out of gas, but I do agree that healthy, which is, like I said, that's the Tom Thibodeau conundrum, because I do think he was playing us. Josh Hart, 48 minutes, the whole game he was playing. That's Tom Thibodeau for you. So there is a level of blame that could go around for last year, blaming not all Tom Thibodeau, but him getting some of that blame. My last point, really, and this is my official last point, is last year, I'm trying to think of my point. Just last year, I liked the style of basketball we played. It was different from where the league is today. We talk about all these 3-point shots. We didn't really thrive off of the 3-point shot. We defended, we hustled. We got to the basket, we got to the free throw line. I think my guy Julius Randle, he was playing bully ball like how he was in Kentucky, just getting to the rack, not shooting these, rainbow threes. I love the way how we played last year. And I can't believe in my mind that I signed off on this garbage, man, with this 5-out, experiment with Tom Thibodeau as a coach. I'm mad I bought into that theory, man. I'm mad I drunk this Kool-Aid, and I feel like I'm about to be like in a movie where they poison the Kool-Aid, and I'm about to just, start tripping, because I don't know why I bought into that. I love the way how we played last year. I'm not even going to lie, Zach. Mic drop, man.
And let's be honest about something, too. I think basketball, this is a sport where chemistry is key. And sometimes it's just one change or one adjustment you could make that flips a script and no one sees it coming. And I think we mentioned this on the show many times throughout last year. Like Julius Randle getting hurt last year was probably the best thing that ever happened to this Knicks team. They were a different team after he got hurt. And I think Minnesota is learning from that right now. That Randle Towns trade, I think it's going to go down as a lose-lose for both teams because I just don't think either of them are winning players.
I agree with you on that. And yeah, we might as well end on that note. That was a good way to end because I do agree with that statement. Very factual. We're going to go to halftime here. And when we come back, we got some more NBA. We got an NFL topic that we're going to get into. And we got a take for 99. So make sure you stick around because it's going down. We'll be back in the next 3 minutes. Keep it locked.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. We've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, or leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.